Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lucia Kučerová. I am the substantive guarantor for research and development, and in the following presentation I will introduce the evaluation criteria for the substantive evaluation of the call excellent research. The next following rounds of the evaluation will be the subject of a separate training. As a part of the presentation, I will explain the design and settings of the table in Annex 2 to the call Excellent Research, and we will gradually discuss the various evaluation criteria under Annex 2 to the call. There are also some recommendations for evaluation. The presentation will conclude by briefly summarizing the overall design of the evaluation and the next steps. Table design, explanation. Column 1 links to the supported activity under the call. It shows a link to the call activities defined by the applicant. This indicator provides clarity and identification of links to specific activities. Column 2, root criterion name. It shows links to thematic, substantive part of the project. Again, this indicator primarily provides clarity and identification of links. It can be further divided into sub-criteria. Column 3, project quality aspect, sub-criterion. Furthermore, the root criterion breaks down into component parts, allowing for more detailed evaluation. It breaks down, for example, to necessity and efficiency. Column 4, sub-criterion number, shows the number or code for each sub-criterion. Each sub-criterion has its own designation. Criteria F, from 1 to 13, are intended for internal evaluators. That means that they are evaluated by managing authority. Criteria P, from 1 to 8, are also intended for internal evaluators and are also evaluated by managing authority. Criteria beginning with the letter V are intended for evaluators. That means substantive expert evaluation. Table design, evaluation process. Substantive evaluation consists of 2 rounds. The second round is divided into 3 steps. Only criteria V1.1 to V11.1 are relevant for the first round of evaluations. Table design, explanation. Column 5 shows the names of the individual sub-criteria. Column 6, the evaluation method yes, no, or scoring sub-criterion, shows for each individual criterion whether the evaluation method is scoring or yes or no, that means elimination. Scoring indicates the maximum score a given sub-criterion can be given. Column 7, scoring for the root criterion, shows the total score of the given criterion. That means maximum score that could be received as a sum of score of sub-criteria or overall evaluation yes or no. Column 8, main source of information, shows where information should be primarily provided for the assessment of each criterion. It might be parts of the application for support, for example, project description, key activities, or annexes to the application, especially the Feasibility Study or other relevant annexes. Beyond these prescribed sources, the applicant may, for example, provide information in a separate annex. However, he or she should always indicate in the relevant parts of the application for support a reference to the document in which this information is further elaborated. Column 9, Evaluator, indicates who is responsible for the evaluation. That means whether it's an internal or an external evaluator. Column 10, root criterion function, indicates whether a given criterion is exclusion, that means yes or no evaluation. In the case of no, the project is excluded from further evaluation process. Or, if the criterion is evaluative, the evaluator awards score, or whether it is a combined criterion, the evaluator awards score, but a minimum score limit is set. If the score awarded for this criterion is below the minimum score limit, the project has failed the substantive evaluation and is excluded from further evaluation process. Column 11, Sub-criterion function. Although in terms of evaluation, column 10 is very similar to column 11. It's related to the individual partial sub-criteria. That means that identically to column 10, there are the following possible options: exclusion, that means yes or no evaluation, evaluative or combined criteria. Column 12, minimal score limit in the case of combined root criteria, is valid only in the case of a combined criterion. It contains a minimum score limit which must be reached in aggregate for the root criterion. If this value is not reached, the project has failed the substantive evaluation and is excluded from further evaluation process. If the criterion is not combined, the individual cells are marked like X. Column 13, similarly to column 12, column 13 indicates the minimum score necessary for sub-criteria. Column 14, the minimum score range of evaluators for the use of an arbitrator root criterion. Column 14 applies only to the root criteria. It shows minimum score range which, if it materializes, that means individual evaluators will award score which such a difference will require the use of an arbitrator for the evaluation. Column 15, criterion description, shows a basic characteristics of the criterion, that means what is specifically being evaluated. Description of the criterion must be studied in order to properly complete the application in accordance with the requirements and setting of individual criteria. Column 16, instructions for evaluators. From the perspective of the evaluator, column 16 is probably the most important one because it contains guidelines for evaluators. It contains partial model questions. After studying the project application and its annexes, the evaluator subsequently writes a report in which he or she will evaluate whether and how these questions are addressed in the application. Criterion V1.1, existing research center. Evaluation involves whether the applicant or partners are a clearly profiled and active research and development center. The definition of a research center is shown in a specific part of the rules. Criterion V1.1 is exclusion criterion, which means yes or no evaluation. Criterion V2.1, ambition and simultaneously realistic nature of the plan to develop the applicant's research center in the area of R&D relevant to the research objective of the project. Included are areas of research, research capacity, investment facilities, international cooperation in R&D. The subject of evaluation is the plan to develop the center, which would be implemented through a project. Criterion V2.1 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V3.1, quality and potential of research program or project programs. That means comparison of qualitative benefits and impacts internationally. Criterion V3.1 is combined criterion. Minimum score limit is 6 points. Criterion V 3.2 Quality and potential of research activities of the project. It contains evaluation of specific research activities. These are activities fulfilling individual research project or research programs. Criterion V 3.2 is a criterion. Criterion V 3.3 Cooperation with leading research organizations or foreign partner. Evaluation involves whether and to what extent the research center collaborates with foreign organizations. The quality of the organization or organizations will be considered in the context or in comparison with other relevant institutions of the field abroad. The call does not set any particular form of these cooperations. It can be, for example, a memorandum of understanding, letter of intent, or other relevant documents stating the manner and form of cooperation. This activity should be specified in Chapter 5.1.4 of the Feasibility Study. Criterion V 3.3 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 3.4 Manner of involving foreign strategic partner in the research activities of the project. Evaluation involves the manner of cooperation with foreign partner, leading organization for research and dissemination of knowledge abroad. Activity E of the call set a condition that the project must have cooperation with minimum one foreign organization. The call does not prescribe any specific form of cooperation. The applicant decides based on its capacities and needs with respect to the focus of the project. It's required to establish, intensify, or strengthen cooperation with minimum one leading organization for research and dissemination of knowledge abroad. The manner to set this cooperation is entirely up to the applicant. For example, the applicant can present memorandum of understanding or letter of intent or another similar document. This activity should be specified in Chapter 5.1.4 of the Feasibility Study. Criterion V 3.4 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 3.5 Logical and thematic coherence of the project's research objectives in relation to the existing research activities of the applicant's research center. Evaluation involves the coherence of research project or project activities in relation to the applicant's research focus. In the feasibility study, the applicants shall specify how they build on existing research focus of the research center. It also includes an indication of how the project implementation will extend research, whether it leads to development or whether or not support is provided for sustainability of project financed under previous programming period. Only pure support for sustainability without further development is an excluded activity and cannot be accepted. Criterion V 3.5 is combined criterion. Minimum score limit is 2 points. Criterion V 3.6 Ambition of the project outputs and results and the realistic prospects to achieve them according to project milestones. That means realistic nature and ambition of project outputs. Declared results and outputs should be proportionate to the required resources and research focus of the project. That means the possibilities of publication for the given field. However, at the same time, the declared values should be realistic. They should not be unrealistic values that the applicant will be unable to meet given its objective capacity. Under the research programs of the project, applicants could, in connection with research activities, define partial research milestones. Detailed information about the research focus of the project should be included in the feasibility study. Criterion V 3.6 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 4.1 the results of the expert team achieved in the last 5 years in terms of scientific publications and/or research monographs. That means evaluation of cruciality or excellence and/or expertise of workers according to set parameters. Information on the results of key or excellent workers is provided in a separate chapter of the feasibility study and possibly also in the CVs of key or excellent workers. For these workers, the call always requires the presentation of CV. Criterion V 4.1 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 4.2, the results of the expert team achieved in the last 5 years in terms of winning grants. It is evaluation of cruciality or excellence and/or expertise of workers according to set parameters. Identically to the previous criterion, information on the results of key or excellent workers, in this case explicitly grants, is provided in a separate chapter of the feasibility study and possibly also in the CVs of key or excellent workers. For these workers, the call always requires the presentation of CV. Cruciality, excellence, and expertise must be evaluated in the context of the research field. The applicant may specify the results or CVs for multiple members of the expert team. The call requires the submission of a CV of the head of the research program. If this is not available, the applicant must specify at least the qualification requirements for the position. Criterion V 4.2 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 4.3, the results of the expert team achieved in the last 5 years in terms of patents and industry cooperation. Identically to the previous criterion, information on the results of key or excellent workers, in this case explicitly patents or other cooperation with industry or application sector, is provided in a separate chapter of the feasibility study and possibly also in the CVs of the key or excellent workers. For these workers, the call always requires the presentation of CV. Cruciality or excellence must be evaluated in the context of the research field. The applicant may specify the results or CV for multiple members of the expert team. The call requires the submission of a CV of the head of the research program. If this is not available, the applicant must specify at least the qualification requirements for the position. Criterion V 4.3 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 4.4, the design and size of the research team, the balance of expertise, roles, FTEs, and their relevance to the implementation of the research activities and team development during project implementation. It is evaluation of the adequacy of the setting of the expert team given the research activities planned under the project. The call does not require any minimum FTE count. The overall design of the expert team is set by the applicant according to the needs and setting of the project. The need for workers and the amount of the FTEs in relation to the overall setting of the expert team should be elaborated within the feasibility study. Criterion V 4.4 is combined criterion. Minimum score limit is 2 points. Criterion V 4.5, the quality of the nominated members of the research team, relevance and coherence of their current research activities with regard to the research project activities. This criterion means evaluation of the quality of the members of the project research team or teams. The applicants were required to specify the head of the research program or programs, either namely including the CV, or at least by specifying the qualification requirements for the position. In the preparation of project applications, applicants were advised to specify senior researchers to allow the evaluation of the quality of the research team. for junior researchers or for PhD students, where they were advised to indicate type positions. Criterion V 4.5 is combined criterion. Minimum score limit is 4 points. Criterion V 4.6. The realistic nature of the plan and schedule for recruitment of researchers for the research project. That means realistic nature of the recruitment plan given the planned project activities. Criterion V 4.6 is combined criterion. Minimum score limit is 1 point. Criterion V 5.1. Appropriateness of selected indicators of outputs and results. Indicator 20214. At the time of the opening of the project application in the system, the indicator was not loaded automatically for approximately 14 days in late May due to a system error. It's therefore possible that if the application was created at this time, it does not contain this indicator. If this is found during evaluation, it's necessary to point out this fact so that the situation can be remedied and the indicator included. This is not a fault leading to score reduction. It was due to a system error. Indicator CO24, the number of newly created jobs or new workers converted to FTE, should match the focus of the project and its planned activities. Indicator CO25. During the opening of the call, the count method of this indicator changed. The target value can thus be set by another count method, counting only values in the last year of the project, not as a cumulative sum of individual years. If the target value is not set cumulatively, then it's not the fault of the applicant, but it must be pointed out in the report so that it can be rectified. Indicator 20312. When evaluating this indicator, it's necessary to follow the principles outlined in the methodological part of the presentation. Criterion B 5.1 is combined criterion. Minimum score limit is 2 points. Criterion B 6.1. The adequacy and efficiency of payroll costs of the expert team. Researchers of the expert team. Payroll costs must comply with the 3E rules. The costs must correspond to the involvement of the expert in the team. The amount should be equivalent to his or her role in the position in the team. Criterion V 6.1 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 6.2. The adequacy and efficiency of payroll costs of the administrative team. Payroll costs must comply with the 3E rules. The costs of administrative team must be adequate in terms of both FTEs, due to the need to provide for the administrative part of the project, and also in terms of setting the amount of these costs. Criterion V 6.2 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 6.3. Ambition and also realistic nature of the amount of revenue from international grant competitions. Main source of information is feasibility study. Projects at the time of implementation must not generate revenue. The budget of the project will, therefore, not contain such information. In terms of evaluating this criterion, essential information will include that contained in the feasibility study, possibly also within the cost-benefit analysis. Criterion V 6.3 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 6.4. The realistic nature of the structure, character and amount of other revenue, that means revenue other than that from international grant competitions, with a view to achieving the project objectives. Main source of information is also feasibility study. Other revenue means basically revenue which serve to finance the research center. Criterion V 6.4 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 7.1 general conditions for the eligibility of expenditure. That means assessment of general eligibility of items included in the project budget. If an item not meeting the general eligibility is identified, it's necessary to exclude the item from the budget. In the first round of evaluation, it's possible to specify in the budget cumulative figures for the acquisition of infrastructure. That means instrumentation or constructions. Infrastructure cost will be subject to a detailed assessment in the second round of evaluation. If applicants have already submitted a complete application in the first round, that means including data on the infrastructure, it's possible that if the general conditions for the eligibility of expenditure are not met, cuts may be required already at this stage. Criterion V 7.1 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 7.2 method of securing co-financing at the implementation stage. Applicants are required to provide the prescribed amount of co-financing. Depending on the nature of applicants, this amount will mostly be 5% of total eligible project costs. The applicant will specify the manner to fulfill this obligation at the appropriate tab in the application for support. Criterion V 7.2 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 8.1 identifying risks and measures to prevent them and reduce their impact on the ability to achieve project objectives. In accordance with the design of the call or evaluation under the call, which is divided into two rounds, evaluation of preliminary application and full application, risk analysis is also divided into two parts. Evaluation in the first round should involve risk analysis related to the areas that are the subject of evaluation in the first round. Chapter on project risk is also divided into two parts in the feasibility study. Criterion V 8.1 is evaluation criterion. Criteria V 9.1, V 9.2, V 9.3 horizontal themes. That are activities promoting equal opportunities, activities supporting sustainable development, and activities supporting non-discrimination. The project must not have any negative impacts on horizontal themes. If negative effects have been identified, the exclusion criterion applies. The application is excluded from further evaluation process. Criteria V 9.1, V 9.2, and V 9.3 are exclusion criteria, so the evaluation is only yes or no. Criterion V 10.1 Sustainability. Assessment of how the operation of the research center or further research in the post-project period will be ensured. In addition to the financial sustainability, applicants should specify in the feasibility study also the research sustainability of the project. That means further research activities, delivering results, outputs at the time of project sustainability. Criterion V 10.1 is evaluation criterion. Criterion V 11.1 assessment is made of whether the project's activities or content are in accordance with relevant strategies specified in the text of the call and whether they contribute to their achievement, especially risk-free strategy. Applicants must specify in a separate annex links of project activities to the strategic objectives of the national strategy risk-free, how it complies with the risk-free strategy or with its defined areas. The project, its substantive focus, must comply with at least one generic knowledge domain and or at least one key application sector or application topic listed in the National Risk-Free Strategy or its regional annex. The metrics relevant to assessing the above is also available under OPRDE, page 25. According to the instructions in the specific part of the rules, the applicants shall specify in the annex how they have contributed to the production of scientific outputs in the area knowledge domain. That means by specifying related publications, patents, expert papers, joint projects with companies or government. They should specify a minimum 5 scientific outputs. Criterion V 11.1 is exclusion criterion, so the evaluation is yes or no. Recommendations for evaluation. Context. Before filling the report, the application should be studied completely, including all annexes. Evaluation must then be made on the basis of all the information contained in the application or annexes. That means when assessing the outputs or indicators, account must be taken of the research focus and specificity of the project. Coherence. Overall, the evaluation should be consistent. If any fault is identified, this should be reflected in the comment and scoring. The overall conclusion of the evaluation must be in accordance with the final score. Concreteness. Recommendations, comments or requests for modifications must be as specific as possible. The responsibility of the applicant in the second round of evaluation is to incorporate the requirements of the evaluator. The applicant must therefore understand from the report what modifications are required. That means it's, for example, impossible to state that the expert team is not designed properly. It's necessary to clearly indicate which positions are missing or which are redundant, or how it would be appropriate to design the team. Comments. If a criterion is not awarded the maximum score, it's necessary to provide a comment with justification. The comment should also be provided in the case of full score, but in the case of a reduced score, the comment is absolutely necessary. The comment must be clear why the score was reduced. Completeness. Any contact with the applicant is inadmissible. Complete evaluation must be performed based on information stated in the application and its annexes by the applicant. Providing additional information is not allowed. If presented information does not allow the relevant criterion to be correctly evaluated, the evaluator shall award the lowest score and provide the appropriate comment. Between round 1 and round 2 of evaluation, the applicant may not make any changes except changes required by the evaluator and providing additional information for the evaluation in round 2, infrastructure information. That means further provision of additional information is impossible. In any case of doubt, please inquire with the relevant contact person at the managing authority. At the end of evaluation, the managing authority will conduct quality control of the evaluation report. See the above principles.